Welcome to Building Fortunes Radio. Make sure you check us out at buildingfortunesradio.com. Along with KISK, our Keep It Simple Circle marketing partners, we are here to help our Humongous AM and Humongous FM radio customers build their businesses and make the world a better place. At Building Fortunes Radio, we know how much your business means to you and the people important to you. So join us to make the world a better place. Spread the word, tell a friend, and go make a difference in your world. Now on to our show with your host, Peter Mingils. Take it away, Peter.
Hello, everyone. Peter Mingils here. You are listening to us on the Building Fortunes Radio Network, and we are here with Harrington Insurance Agency's owner, Mike Harrington. Mike and I have known each other for a super-duper long time, and we've done radio shows before when he was working on different projects, but today we kind of want to introduce something that many of you may have never heard of before, and too few people really take advantage of it, and that's part of the problem. That's why we're doing this radio show. So if you are in certain states, you definitely want to check out Mike Harrington. He's going to go through this as we go through the radio show, but he's got a great website, Harrington-insurance-agency-radio-show. That's Harrington-insurance-agency-radio-show, and he's really easy to talk to. Super duper smart guy, always working on different projects and certifying education in the fields that he's in, and we're going to talk about this specific project today. So, Mike, thanks for being here on your own radio show.
Thank you, Peter.
So, I know we've had several different radio shows before. You're very involved in the insurance industry. Do you want to give people a little bit about your background?
Sure, Peter. Thanks for having me on today. First of all, I do come out of the financial services industry, banking, and most recently insurance. I am a very experienced Medicare agent. I do help many individuals with navigating the Medicare space, which is changing every single year, and it's getting actually worse for seniors by the year with the coverages and everything else. But that's a different radio show. I'd love to do one regarding Medicare, but today I am going to talk about life insurance. And there is a product which there's two different aspects of mortgage protection insurance, which is what you mentioned. And then I'll get into the difference between that and PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. First of all, there are two different types of mortgage protection insurance. One is straight mortgage protection insurance that in the event of death or a disabling situation in the home or a critical illness, the problem is, what are you going to do if you can't work? So mortgage protection insurance may help pay off the mortgage or make payments if you are unable to work and or critically ill. Most people think, well, I'm already covered. And that's where we get the opportunity to talk about PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. That is typically when people don't have 20% down. Now, that's really not the case anymore because you are required to have 20% down, but depending on your financial wherewithal and, credit report and everything else, the mortgage company may require private mortgage insurance. And that's where the conundrum comes in, because when I talk about mortgage protection insurance, people think, well, I already have PMI. Well, it's very important to understand that PMI covers the lender. It has nothing to do with you, the homeowner. It only covers the lender. So that being said, mortgage protection can step in, and in the event of a policyholder passing away, my question is always, in the event that that happens, can your loved ones stay in the home? And that means making the mortgage payment and all the other expenses that coincide with, a tragedy or a sudden life event such as death. It also can cover critical illness, chronic illness, where it can make payments for a specific period of time until things change, or you may be able to just have a payment plan that covers those expenses. Now, there are two different types of mortgage protection insurance. One that pays the lender directly. The difference between that and a life insurance policy is a couple things. Now, the mortgage protection insurance plan that pays the lender directly, that is decreasing term insurance. So as your mortgage goes down, the benefit goes down. It runs parallel with the mortgage balance, and in the event of a life crisis, it would pay off the lender. Now, the difference between that and a mortgage protection life insurance policy is what I like to call it, is when you pay the lender directly, that is it's a decreasing term, but the premium stays the same even though your benefit is decreasing. Where on a life insurance mortgage protection plan, we typically use term, or there is whole life. There's other things available. But what that does is the premium stays level, but as the mortgage goes down, the benefit amount, whatever that is, $400,000 or whatever, that stays the same. So as the mortgage goes down, the difference can go to the family. And it's a great policy, and most people think, well, that's got to be expensive. It is very, very reasonable. And there's other things that you need to consider about covering yourself with mortgage protection insurance. We call it MPI. Number one, what is the family going to do in a life event? Can they stay in the home? But it's far more than that. What about the expenses? What about the children that are in the school that love their school? Are they going to have to move if they can't make the mortgage payment? And many times, people in that instance, they face foreclosure because they can't cover the expenses. And, I hear a lot of people say, well, I really don't need life insurance. And my response to that is, well, you yourself know you don't. Your family does. And that's where it's really not known, and people have a great misconception about it, Peter. And I would love to have people that may hear this give me a call, and let's talk about it and find out how reasonable it is to cover the family so they can stay in the home in a life event. During those times, the grieving process and everything else, that's what needs to be the focus, not how are you going to pay the mortgage and all the expenses, keep the kids in the house, stay in the school system. So that's where we come in. And, my whole goal in the insurance industry, money follows value. I am paid by the carriers. There's no charge for me to work with people. So what we do is a needs analysis and find out what your liability is. And, we may be able to get that covered at a very reasonable cost. And in my mind, everybody should have it. It should be a requirement, but it isn't. So there you have it.
When we've been talking about you and this and helping you with websites and other things like that, I didn't have the story I'm going to relay next. So sometimes people need stories to kind of hit them over the head, take action. So let me give you the realistic story that just happened. On July 3rd, I was having a conversation with a gal. Her name is Edie. Edie is, and I'm just not using their last name because I'm not sure if they want this out there, but first names are okay. So Edie's in her 80s, super duper wicked smart. She's writing books. That's why she's doing radio shows with us and stuff like that. And she says to me, and by the way, Edie's in North Carolina. She's got one son that helps her in North Carolina. Another son lives in North Carolina, but really loves Wyoming. And he recently flew out to see his adult daughter. So Tori is the son that I'm referencing, Tory. Tory's 55, very successful financially, wonderful spirit, like the guy everybody loves. He flies out with his wife. They spend some time with their adult daughter. They have 3 adult children. I don't know what the ages of all of them are, but they're mid-20s, I'm guessing, maybe upper 20s. Great kids, just a wonderful family. And Tory decides that, hey, it's 4th of July now. So I spoke to Edie on the 3rd. It's the 4th of July now. I'm going to do what I've probably done a million times when I'm in Wyoming around the Snake River. I'm going to climb up this mountain or whatever, this ledge, and jump in because everybody else does as well. And probably he's done it a million times. But this time on July 4th, the 55-year-old jumps in, never comes out. Till today. Today is July, for those people listening in, 14th. So we're talking about 10 days later. Still haven't found his body. Now, Mike, that's a tragic story. No one ever thought that was going to happen. But paint for us the scenarios with and without the kind of insurance that you're referencing. What happens next for? We're not really worried about Tory that much. He's a free spirit. If you believe in spirituality or heaven, he's in all the great places. I'm talking about his wife, his 2 adult daughters, his adult son, any business, any family. Paint the different scenarios that might be happening in his world right now.
Yeah, it's very, very, like you just said on the 4th of July, most of these things, people don't plan for tragedies. And they're not prepared. And a lot of families, they have 2 leased cars in the driveway. They have a mortgage. They have all these other expenses, the children in school, the football, the soccer, and all these other things. And, I hate to say it, but most families are living right on the edge. And, one hiccup or one disaster, like a critical illness, a heart attack, you can't work, or, a death of the policyholder, and I'm sure that may have been the case that you were just talking about. What do you do? Especially if, you're living on such a tight budget, you can't even, think twice anyway. And, life insurance really is probably one of the most important pieces of an individual's financial protection that they should have. And it's probably the least considered insurance, but it's one of those things, God forbid you don't need it, but if you do need it and don't have it, you're in trouble. And, many times there's been people that, this stuff happens, and then, they call up the agent and they have a policy, and, within 10 days or so, they have a check that pays off their mortgage, covers their expenses, and keeps everything stable while you're going through such a terrible time in a crisis like that. So it's really something that people should look at. Like I said, it's reasonable, it's inexpensive. We're not talking hundreds of dollars a month. Sometimes, depending on age, it can be as little as a cup of coffee a day. And to protect your entire financial wherewithal. And, the other thing too, Peter, is, let's talk about home ownership for a minute. Everybody thinks, well, I own my own home. People don't own their home until that home is paid for. That's the other misconception. And in my mind, coming from the banking industry and financial services, a home with a mortgage, especially if it's a new mortgage, and it's a 30-year mortgage, that is probably one of the biggest liabilities that people have. It's not an asset. It's not an asset until that home is paid for. So that's another misconception. Well, I own my own home. Oh, you paid off the mortgage? No, but I own the home. Well, no, you don't. The bank owns that home. And until that's paid for, you need to protect that. And that's where a life insurance policy, mortgage protection insurance, comes into play. And like I said, there's term insurance, which is the most reasonable. And, depending on age. And the other thing too, Peter, is the earlier you secure that insurance, the less the premium is going to be. So
don't I know it? Absolutely. Yeah, when I was a young man running a business, I had a wife, still do, 3 kids, still do, but they were much younger. And I said, if anything happened to me, what would happen to them? So I don't know if I did the right thing or the wrong thing, Mike. You always go backwards in time and try to figure this stuff out. But I had $1 million in life insurance on term because I didn't need it. Chances are I wasn't going to die. But if I did, that $1 million in life insurance on term wound up being I guess it's a good investment psychologically, horrible investment financially because I'm still talking to you. So all of the money that I put in there eventually is gone. For that 30-year term. I think I had a 20 or 30-year term. I forget which one. But now people are faced like me. They're facing the final expense guy calling or something like that going on. And if you're young and you're listening in, you better lock in your rate. I'm telling you. Just like if I were your daddy, your grandpa, or anybody else, your financial advisor, if you're young, you got to lock in your rate. Everybody's got to have it because you can never tell when those life events are going to have it. And I think that's just a different people's mentality or philosophy. And you can't make them buy it, but you can certainly bring up their education and their awareness of it. And that's why I bring up that real-life story that is unfolding right now. So, Tori jumps off a cliff. It wasn't like a Acapulco kind of cliff where you think about hundreds of feet deep that people are doing irresponsibly. No. I think this is like maybe 20 or 30 feet in the air. Hell, people do that stuff all the time and never have a problem. But something happened this last time. He's presumed dead because they haven't found the body. It's been 10 days. So more than likely they either will or won't. But the reality is now that family has to worry about those bills that are coming due now. And, if they had, say, for instance, in the wonderful world of he had spoken to Mike before, last year he was talking to Mike, he buys this PMI or MPI. Actually, it's going to be MPI, the mortgage protection insurance. What would his life for his family, which was the most important thing for him, if you asked him on a list of priorities, where is business, money, anything, he'd say family first, certainly the top 2. God might be one of them, but family first might be the other. So what would happen in the tragic event? You'd be getting a phone call probably from his wife saying, Mike, that MPI insurance, well, I don't know that much about it, but what did he have and how does this work and what do we do next?
Well, that's just it, Peter. And, that example that you just gave, and people always think, well, it's not going to happen to me. And when you have that mindset, that's a recipe for disaster because that
only works with the lottery. That only works with the lottery.
Exactly.
Only works with the lottery.
Yeah, it's never going to happen to me because I've never won a lottery yet. So I can say that would be true. But, the thing is when people do secure this type of insurance and they know they're covered, I can guarantee.
Play this out. So you get this phone call from his wife. Mike, I know you're working with Tori. He did this. I know he's got something in place. I got some papers in front of me. How does that play out if he did the right thing? Say he's got 1 or 2 homes, had this MPI on either one or both. Maybe
yes.
It's a second home, a vacation home. So talk to me about, what does that phone call sound like?
Well, basically they call and, they call me and inform me that, Tori is, something has happened and, in the event that, in this case they unfortunately haven't found him, but when they do and there's a death certificate, they provide that to me and, they get a check for whatever that amount was, $400,000, $500,000, whatever it is, and that check is, sent to them immediately, and it's quite the thing to understand that when people have that ability to concentrate on what matters most after a tragedy like that, the family, the children,
Absolutely.
and everything else, and they don't have to worry about a home, because that home will be, they will, as the beneficiary, they will receive a check. They can pay off the home. Actually, they can do whatever they want with it. If it's not tied to
the money is fluid. The money is
Yes.
for them. They can do whatever they
Yes.
can.
Yes,
Wow.
they can pay off the mortgage. They can pay all their bills. They can pay off their cars. And, the other thing that people don't realize, home ownership is one thing, but you've got taxes and all the different things that go with,
all the utilities, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, just
All right, so
basic life.
Let me paint a different scenario. So Tori jumps off the bridge or jumps off the cliff, and this time though, he, and Tori is a guy who needs to work to earn income, and he winds up breaking his leg, and he's going to be out for 3 months. What happens then?
Well, typically, there are riders for that, but typically it's critical illness.
Okay.
In that case, you're getting into more of a health insurance type thing.
Okay.
So, a broken leg is not going to qualify for that.
Got it.
But, there are some policies that do include, unemployment and everything else, but, we don't see many of those, and they're very expensive. But, that's where health insurance would come in. But, I'm talking really about, the critical life events, the serious illness, the chronic illness, critical illnesses, cancer, that type of thing. And in that case, some policies have no-cost riders. I know Americo's got one, no-cost critical life benefits where you get a percentage of that that you can draw, while you're still alive. So, you can be covered, and I don't know what it is, Peter. When it comes to life insurance, people are very narrow-sighted, and they just don't understand that it's always going to happen to somebody else, right?
Right.
But if you're not covered and it happens to you, my question to them is, well, what are you going to do?
Right.
And in most cases, that house is
the
going to get foreclosed on.
Yep. Last thing you want to think about. You just lost your husband, your dad, your brother, or something like that, and then all of a sudden now you have to worry about this?
Yeah.
That's horrible. All right, so for those people that want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that? Because obviously you know a lot. You're always getting your education and updated and you're on top of whatever it is that you're working on. I talked to you a lot about all the continuous education that you do. So you're certainly qualified to be able to answer any of their questions that they have, and some of these probably going to take some conversations because you know the industry better than maybe the person that's asking you the questions. So how do they get in touch with you?
Well, I'm going to give you my 800 number, and we answer the phone live. So it's 877-293-3994. That's 877-293-3994. My name is Mike Harrington. That's spelled with an A. Same with Harrington Insurance Agency, Harrington. And also, Peter, I would like everybody to know that I am licensed in Florida, Georgia, New York, PA, Tennessee, and Texas. And South Carolina is right around the corner. And, my goal is just to inform people and show them what is available to them. And working with me, like I said, there's no cost to work with me. And, I present the facts. I'm not here to hard sell anybody. I don't do that. I've never done that. And, if I sell a policy, I'm paid by the carrier, and what I want to do is make sure that people are protected. And I can guarantee this, if somebody that does not have a mortgage protection policy and we enroll them in a policy where it completely protects them, I can guarantee them that evening they will sleep a lot better.
Wow. Well, this is a fascinating conversation with an insurance that most people don't know anything about. So if you're listening in and this applies to you or someone you know, if you're somebody have an adult kid, a young kid getting started, whatever it might be, make sure you talk to them about this. Check out Harrington-insurance-agency.com. Mike, you're a good guy. We've worked together on a lot of different things.
Yes.
So, for our Building Fortunes Radio listening audience, everything that Mike does, I endorse. I mean, he's a good guy. He's a hard worker, and he's going to be able to answer your questions no matter what kind of insurance it might be. And I don't know that much about the insurance business to ask other questions, but these are, I think, the basic questions that most people want to know to get started. So
absolutely, Peter. It's a very short process. We can do it on Zoom, and I can run everybody through the process, and they'll see everything, and we can get them enrolled very quickly. It doesn't take long at all.
Wow. So the whole thing could be done, from the comfort of your home or your phone, or if you like Zoom meetings and stuff like that, you'll be able to do all that sort of stuff. So for those people listening in, make sure you check him out. Mike's number is 877-293-3994. That's 877-293-3994. I'll make sure this is in the show notes. You'll be able to look for Michael Harrington or Harrington Insurance Agency, and we'll make sure he has this available anywhere else he posts different things. Mike, thanks for being here. This is great.
Thank you, Peter.
Back with more
enjoy it.
questions.
And we'll see you next Tuesday.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Building Fortunes Radio on buildingfortunesradio.com. Thanks for listening. Building Fortunes Radio is part of the Humongous AM and Humongous FM radio network. Be sure to check out the buildingfortunesradio.com website to listen to your favorite shows. You can also hear us on Humongous Radio and wherever you find your favorite podcasts. It's been our privilege to have you listen in. At Building Fortunes Radio, we wish you the success you deserve and are willing to work for.